Excuse me.
And I'm going to do no left hand filling.
No left hands. Okay.
Is it an independent comic?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's Image.
Image, okay.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Cool. Well, here we are.
Perfect.
We're just going to chat. So I guess we'll start off with, why do you think it's important to cultivate trust with your students?
So, without trust, I don't think that we're creating an engaging or an open environment down here. If the students aren't willing to trust me, and if I can't trust the students, then how can I ask them to make themselves vulnerable and to really put themselves out there as artists?
Right.
And this really goes both ways. I'm asking the students every day to kind of trust the process, process over product, trust the process.
Sure.
And then if I'm working on something, maybe I'll show them an image. Maybe I'll bring in the actual artwork and kind of have them give me a critique in progress. So it's great that I can also trust them, but big picture, it's about building the environment, really building that positive environment that they can really push their creativity.
Yeah. So is it safe to say that, like, the creation of art would not be possible without an environment where vulnerability is allowed to be part of the mix?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if they're not feeling safe, then they're not going to engage as much as they could.
Sure.
I'm asking them to really put everything out there, to be vulnerable, to allow themselves to be an active participant within that.
Right.
And without that trust, we won't have that.
You won't have that.
No.
Well, and one student I spoke with earlier today said that it was really amazing when you ask for their opinion and they can watch how you respond to that feedback, because then they have a model for how they can critique each other's work and have a positive interaction that way. Because taking criticism is not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we talk about it. You are 100% correct. It's not an easy process. But if I'm asking them to practice being creative thinkers, creative problem solvers, and really artists, what better way than to trust them and have them do it to me so I can model that behavior?
Yeah. And just the skill of being able to take that and turn it into something productive.
Right.
And not have that instant defensiveness that you have sometimes when I think you are involved in a vulnerable process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's easy to go to that place first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you think that their participation in art kind of trickles into the other aspects of their academic work?
So, well, in a big picture, I feel like we're trying to create creative thinkers, right? Like we always say in problem solving, you take logic and reason, right? And those things match up. But when you throw in creativity and courage into that mixture, then they're able to do anything. I mean, it's a really good stew, right?
Yeah.
So everything mixes together, and then they can apply that literally to anything, whether it's a class, any future endeavor, things that they're doing. We hear from alumni that come back. I go back to thinking about everything from synectic trigger mechanisms that we talked about in Design Overview, and thinking about how I can use these to solve problems, to I have a much better understanding of how visual communication works, and then I apply that to my presentation skills, and I apply that to so many different walks of life.
That's amazing.
So I mean, I'm a little biased, right?
Sure.
But I feel like art prepares you for everything.
Yeah.
Because it is everything.
It encompasses so many hard and soft skills.
Yeah.
When you have to put it all together to make a piece. Yeah. So how do you feel like your own creative work as an artist communicates with how you teach? Do you think that being a practicing artist yourself informs kind of the way that you run your classroom?
Yeah, I think that it's important to practice what I preach.
You're right.
Right? I mean, if I'm asking all these students to do really hard work, I mean, I jokingly say to them all the time when they say, this is really difficult, I say, well, it's called an art work, right? It takes work to make it. And if I wasn't doing that myself, then how could I really convey that message?
It'd be hard to hold them to that standard.
Yeah. And even things that I'm doing in the studio, like I share with the students my process pretty regularly.
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, I just started this new piece. I've got these other two pieces going at the same time, and I like to kind of go between all three, right? I've got a messy space in my studio. I've got a very clean space in the studio, and I kind of try to balance that out. So, I mean, just today, when I was talking to the students, they're doing this really complex observational still life, and it demands a lot of their attention. So I asked them, would they like a side project that maybe every 5 days in class, we can kind of do that side project to give them a little break from just the demands of the still life.
Right.
And they were like, can we do that? And I was like, I do it all the time, right? Like I do it all the
But
time.
they would have no example of that working model without you bringing that in from your own personal practice.
Yeah. And I told them, I was like, well, I don't have a prescribed, okay, so we're going to do watercolor pencils and it's going to be a study in color intensity. It's nothing like that. It's like, all right, so what if we focused on identity? Or what if we focused on how we fit within a community? And then they're like, well, what do we use for that? And I'm like,
good question.
It's a great question. And they can do prints, they can do watercolors, acrylics, sculpture, video. I mean,
That's such an interesting
wild.
pedagogical approach to have it be driven thematically instead of kind of going through all the various mediums and the nuts and bolts of those.
Yeah, and I think going back to the first question about trust,
Right.
like, again, that's just another one of those things that could never happen without having that, right? I mean, I'm putting a lot of trust in these students, which I'm always amazed with whatever they do and anything that they pick.
Yeah.
And, again, without that, this wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to another question is like, what amazes you the most about your students?
Oh, boy. What amazes me? Yeah, that's tough. I'm amazed with a lot of things. I think that their zest for learning, even when, let's face the facts. Every student that I have is not going to go to art school. And even fewer are going to continue to be an artist, right? But the grit, the perseverance, the just gusto that they have for creating these works of art always blows me away. And every year when I think, like, man, that was a really strong class. I'm just going to think about the seniors. When I think, oh, that senior class was so good. And then the next year I'm like, this senior class is so good. And then the next year, this one's so good. So I'm constantly floored by just their work ethic and how much they put into it. Conversations that I have with them, even before the charcoal touches the paper or the brush touches the canvas. Just what do you want to do with your art? What do you want to say with your work? I'm astounded by their responses. It's great, and it actually it challenges me in a way, right? And I love that, and it makes me actually think about my own creative process and kind of like what I can do to push my work.
Right. So the art curriculum here is like this living organism.
Oh, yeah.
Of which all the teachers and all the students are cells within that organism that are constantly like forcing each other to evolve. Is kind of what it seems like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gosh, that's amazing. I love it. And then I guess I'll finish with this kind of big question, like the question every artist hates, which is like, what does art mean to you?
Okay, so
hates
that's tricky. And I pose this question to my students as well every year. You're like, what does art mean?
Or like, why is art an essential part of life?
Yeah,
Why is it essential?
It is literally everything, right? I mean, art is everything. Again, I've got a little bit of a bias here, but anything that we do, how we handle ourselves, what we look at, what we eat, everything is tied into this notion of art, right? And I mean, in the very generic sense, art is the conveying of an idea to a broader audience. I mean, think about whether it's visual, whether it's through song and dance, anything like that, right? But it's something more. I feel like a lot of people say that art mimics life and life mimics art. It is that balance, it's that balance. They kind of have to work congruently.
Right.
So it's the most important thing.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that's great. Anything else that you want to mention about like your relationship with your students and how that, because I think one thing that we talk a lot about here and that a lot of parents talk about is that is a standout factor of what they see when they send their kids to Whitfield as opposed to other schools, is that the depth and the complexity of the relationship between the faculty and students allows their learning to occur at a level that it maybe would not otherwise without just the 100% commitment from both sides, and the way that our faculty are able to invite students to have that kind of relationship with a teacher, which a lot of them are probably, which is a foreign concept to some of them if they're coming from a school where that isn't really a model.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm in a very unique position as one of the visual arts teachers here, because oftentimes a teacher only has a kiddo for a year. Right? Yeah. And then it's, see you later, you're going on to pre-calculus or you're going on to AP Spanish, you know? Yeah. Working with a student for 4 years, you really get to know them. You know, you get to know their mannerisms. I mean, a student can walk down the ramp and I kind of know if today should probably be a little bit of a break day for them, you know, where they can kind of use that time to utilize art as an outlet, right? Or at the same time, the students walk down and there's many days where I'm just like, hey, how's it going? And they just get right to it. You know, they just start working at the easels or working on their sculptures or whatever they're doing. So having that 4-year relationship, I feel, I don't know, it's an incredible connection. You know, I mean, you get to know the students get to know you. They know my artistic practice. They know who I am as a person, not just as a teacher. Right, you're not just a figurehead. Yeah, you know, I see them as not just a student, but I get to know them as a person, as an artist, as that individual, you know? Yeah, that's awesome. I absolutely love it. They all feel the same way about it. They feel like you know them. Great. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine how rewarding that is for them to come into class and say, no matter what happens today, this person is going to like hold me in that experience and give me what I need today. You know, like that's amazing. Yeah. You guys are awesome. Well, I think we've got lots of great stuff. We've just been capturing like a little clip of everybody just saying thank you, because we're going to do kind of like a thank you montage at the end of the video, I think, to kind of close it out. So if you could look in this guy right here and just say really whatever you want to. Some people have been saying like thank you for supporting Whitfield, because we're going to play this video right before we ask people to raise their paddles. Yeah, I'll probably just do the thank you for supporting Whitfield. That sounds great. Thank you for supporting Whitfield. Yes. Nailed it. Good? Good.